Okay, we have to do it again.
Yeah, I just pressed it.
Yes, but it's now too. Good evening again. Good evening. Sorry for the technical issues, but yeah. As I was saying, thank you so much for joining our community, and we hope that with the launch of Sofia Dreaming, which will become BalkanDreamin in September, we can put Sofia on the map, and as much as possible, maybe every month or 2 months, we will organize such events together. And please come forward if you would like to share your knowledge like Lora did, and basically talk to your managers and get some support for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see if you can hear me well. But you need to increase that. Can you hear me well, guys? Okay, I hope that the folks on the online can also hear me. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you here in the room, and I see that there are people joining online. My name is Lora, and I will be talking about the transform element within the Flow Builder today. It will be a little bit more of a sharing experience, not only the good stuff, but only some hideous stuff as well. So I encourage you to participate actively during the presentation, but also afterwards. I will be here, and I'll be happy to get in touch with you. I'm happy to see many familiar faces here in the room, but also some not that familiar. So I'll be happy to get to know you guys. Okay, so my name is Lora. Some of you might know me as Lora Georgieva. Some of you might know me as Lora Asenovic, both me. Those of you who know me from before know that I'm total flownatic, meaning that I love doing flows because I am so inspired of the speed that we can deliver business value with them. But of course, not at for any solution. So there should be a consideration. I've been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for 10 years already, helping businesses streamline their processes first and then automate them with Salesforce. Currently, I'm a senior Salesforce consultant and team lead within Diva E, Sofia. We are a German company who have decided to build pretty strong team here in Bulgaria. So look us up. Where you can find me, here are the links. But of course, if you search in either on Trailhead or on LinkedIn, you easily find me by my name. There are not that many Loras in the ecosystem. Okay, so now before we start, as I want to make it a little bit more interactive, I'd like to.
Sharing your screen?
I am. Good. Good. Yes, I am sharing. So for those.
There you
go. Okay, so for those of you who did not see where to get in touch with me, here are the links. There will be a recording, so you can visit the recording afterwards as well, right, Ivan?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll not spend too much time on this slide. So before we start, I'd like to make this a little bit more interactive because I don't want to talk about stuff that you know about or about stuff that you are not interested about. So I encourage you to open up your phones, scan this QR code so I can understand better, at least the folks that I don't know and the folks that are joining us online, to understand better what is our audience. I have 3 or 4 questions, and based on them, I'll try to adapt my presentation so that it is as as useful for you, for all of you, as possible. Okay. If you cannot scan the QR code, you can also go to Mentimate to, let me see, to menti.com and use this code over there, which is 59291716. Pretty easy. So here's the first question. Please go ahead and provide me with your responses. Okay. We have 19, 20 people joining. Great. 21. I will wait a little bit. Okay, so we have 22. Okay, still rising. Let's wait a few more seconds. But as far as I can see, the majority of you have heard of the transform element, but have never used it. So I will not focus that much on what is already known and what is already being shared a lot in the community. So not that much details on the transform element itself. Okay, looks like we have 17. Okay, we have a few people that have tried it already. And we have 2 who are using it regularly. So you might be correcting me, guys. Okay, moving on. So when you're automating complex data transformations in Flow, how confident do you feel? Okay, we have quite a lot of Flownatics here. This is good. Okay, we had like 22 people on the previous question, so let's hope that we'll get you all here. Okay. Awesome. This is great result. There will be pretty good discussions, I believe. Okay, going forward, which of the following challenges have you faced when working with flows? Based on this, I'll try to adapt because probably we won't have time for all of the scenarios that I had prepared. So based on this, I'll try to adapt my presentation and start with the most interesting topics for you guys. Hopefully, some of the things will stand out. Okay, interesting. You can select multiple here, I believe. So feel free to select multiple. Okay. 21, 22. Okay. So it looks like we are all struggling with loops and bulk processing. So generally, this means that the transform element is something that we should understand very well because it eliminates a lot of the issues. It definitely lowers the chances of hitting any governor limits, and it's also much faster than the traditional approach with the loops. So all of you who picked struggling with loops and bulk processing, you're at the right place. So transform element is something that we should definitely consider and get familiar with it. The second big group is handling row-up calculations without master detail relationships. So I will start with this particular example. It's rather simple, but there are some really small tweaks that you need to know because otherwise it could be a headache. And then, okay, we'll try to do the mapping. And if there's enough time, we'll go with some more complex stuff. Okay, so I already said I will not focus that much on the transform element itself and its key features because obviously you are familiar with Flow. You have heard about it. I'll go through some of the real life use cases. I confess that all of these cases are actually cases from my experience as a consultant. Some of them were obviously not solved with flow back in the days, but actually they are very good examples. And I believe that many of them are pretty relatable, no matter what the industry or what is the actual implementation about. At the end, I'll try to share my tips and likes and dislikes. As I said, I will not try to sell you the transform element. I'll just share with you what I liked and what I did not like and what I'm waiting to see in upcoming releases. Throughout the whole time, through the Mentimeter, you'll be able also to send your Q&As, your questions, which I will try to address at the end. So feel free to use your phones to add questions, or of course you can voice them afterwards. Okay, moving back to the presentation. As I said, I will not go into very much details regarding the transform element. Key thing here is that it is much faster, according to Salesforce, up to 10 times faster than loops. It is much more efficient in terms of bulk processing because it actually manipulates the data in one and the same element, so much more efficient. And in my opinion, it is very easy, the mapping and the way to use it. Of course, there are things that could be improved and will probably get improved, but let's talk about this a little bit later. So in terms of use cases and demos, the thing that you were most interested in, let me just very quickly move it up, was this one with the row of summaries. Okay, and let's go back here. So, row of summaries. I think that there's no person that hasn't been there. So, whenever, here the example is with orders and accounts, which do not have master details relationship between themselves. But whenever we need that kind of, any kind of row ups based on a relationship, which is a lookup relationship, we know that it is always a struggle. How can this element help us? First of all, what was the solution without transform? If you decide to implement it with a flow, you would have a loop. You iterate through the related orders in this case, or the related object, let's say the child object. You iterate through all of the collection of the orders or whatever the child object is. You have probably an assignment within it to store some or whatever you need to do in additional variables. And then if you want to have something more specific, for example, calculating the value of something only in certain criteria or calculating it separately in, for example, 2 different values that you want to calculate, then you might have a decision within the loop, etc., etc. I'll show you a screenshot afterwards. With the transform element, you can have just the collection. You can filter it out using the filter element, and you can create the 2 separate collections on which you can use the transform element to do the aggregation. So it's just, if it is 1 collection, it's just a 1 element. If it is 2 collections, then you need to do the filtering, which is 2 filters and 2 transform elements. Here's how it looks like. So this is the solution with the loop. In my case here, I wanted to have amount of activated orders and amount of drafted orders separately calculated all together. So this is why I have a decision, and then based on the outcome of the decision, I have 2 separate assignments. So I'm adding the value of the amount to a variable that I have prepared upfront. And after the loop is completed, because I created this as a subflow, we have just the assignment to set the output variables. Here it was the number of orders. So how this thing looks with transform element, it looks like this. So what I had here, so again, in my scenario, this is a subflow, which can be invoked based on a record trigger flow for creation of an order, edit of an order, or deletion of an order. So I wanted to have the flexibility to invoke it in different situations. So this is why I created it as a subflow. So my subflow receives the collection of all of the orders. Then I have this filter that filters only the drafted orders into a new collection. And then I have the transform element to calculate the amount of the draft orders. Then I have filter to filter out just the activated orders, and then the respective transform element to calculate the amount of the activated orders. On the right-hand side, you can see how simple the configuration of the transform element for this scenario is. Generally, you pick the source data, you define the target data type, which in this case is a simple variable, which is a number, and then you just click here and map it over here. And this automatically opens up this window below that you can see, which is to define the aggregate function. So currently the aggregation functions that are available are sum and count only. Personally, I don't see a lot of value into the count, because you can simply use count within an assignment. So you can count the number of entries in a collection variable. So I don't see that much of a benefit. But as for the sum, I think it's easing things a lot. So you are selecting the target, the aggregate type. Do they hear me? Hopefully.
Should be okay.
Okay. You're selecting the aggregate type, and then you're selecting which field you want to aggregate. In my case, this is the total amount of the order, and that's it. You just save, and that's it. There's one tricky part here. Generally, when I first tried it, I was, okay, transform element is integrated with all of the other things in flow, so I'll just use the automatically generated variable over here, which is from the transform. And I believe that I used it in a screen flow the first time. And what I realized is that it was not respecting the definition of the accuracy of the number field that I was aggregating. So my number field was with the accuracy of 2 digits after the decimal point, and the transform element on its own gave me a whole number, which was very disappointing. But the easy fix was just to use additional assignment, which you see at the bottom. So I have just defined a normal variable within the flow, which is a number variable with the respective accuracy that I wanted, the 2 digits after the decimal point accuracy. And once I just assigned it from the automatically created variable from the transform element, when I did the assignment, it was showing up accurately. So the calculation was accurate. Before that, it was not that accurate. So what I did not like here is that when it is creating in this case, it's currency variable, it does not allow you to define the precision of this currency or number, whatever it is. So this was a little bit frustrating. There is an easy workaround, but again, it's another element that you need to have. And I'm expecting that probably soon they'll fix it. But this is what we have at the moment. Okay, any questions on this implementation? Any feedback from your side? Nope. If you have questions, you can also add them to the Q&A in the Menti. Okay, the other scenario with the mapping of one object to another object, I'd say it's a very trivial thing. The business challenge that I have described here is old as Salesforce. So generally, when you have a quote with a set of quote line items, and you want to easily convert this to an order with respective order items, of course, I'm not talking about CPQ or the specific solutions that have their own approach for this. I'm talking about brand new, simple implementation, but this could be anything. This could be whatever custom object that you need at some point to transform to another object. Whether it will be, I don't know, candidacy to something else, to applicant to student, or whatever you decide, you can very, very easily do it. So here, there's practically no limit. Whatever your mind thinks and whatever the business challenge you have, where you need to map easily one object, it makes sense for collections, of course, at least more in most of the cases, but one object to another object, this is a very, very useful tool. So what is the solution without the transform? So you have the loop, you iterate through the source object collection, in this case, the quote line items. You map each and every field from the single variable, which is automatically generated, so the current variable, to a single variable of the target object that you have created on your own. So you map field by field, which in case it's a lot of fields, can be hideous, and it can be a little bit risky that you might duplicate some fields, you might miss some fields, or so it's prone to errors. Then you have the single variable of the target object added to a new collection, so that at the end of the loop, you can use this new collection to create the target object collection. What is the solution with transform? You just have the one collection, and you choose what is your target collection, and you visually map all of the fields. And after that, you can directly use the result of the automatically generated collection from the transform in the create element. So it's really, really easy. Also, it works with the update element. So if you have the scenario where it's not transforming from one object to another, but you just need to do some updates, it's also working. Also, what is interesting here, and in my opinion, very useful, is that you can define the formulas. So if there are some conditions or some different way of calculating some of the values, you don't need to create separate formula resources within the flow and use them in the assignment. You can define this directly in the transform element, which is very useful. Easy to read, but of course it has some limitations. So there's the limitation on the character limits. You know, formulas have some limits. So if you reach that limit, the advisement from Salesforce is to create it the old way, a separate resource, which is a formula, and use it in the transform element to reference. But I have not reached this limit. I have not had too complex scenarios though. So I don't know, maybe some of you, especially those who are regularly using the transform, can share a little bit more here. So here's how it looks without the transform element. This is the hideous mapping, which unfortunately is not that useful. It's, at least in my experience, it's been times and times and times when you have a huge list of fields that needs to be mapped. You either skip one, miss it, or for the hardest thing is when you map something twice. For example, you pick the field twice, because the assignment element will not stop you. So you can map two different values to one and the same field, which might be not ideal. And here is the solution with the transform element. So we have the transform element here, preparing this one. Actually, this is replacing the loop. This one over, oops. This one is replacing the loop. So this loop gets replaced by this one. All of the rest is more or less the same. So here is how the mapping looks like. So it is very, very easy to see which fields you have already mapped. and which you haven't. It's also very easy to see if there are any formulas. So, oops, sorry. If there are any conditions or anything else. So you can see these buttons over here, which are showing that there's a formula and so on. Of course, if the list of fields is really, really crowded, these lines become too messy. But the benefit there is that you cannot map two source fields to one target field. So you cannot have this mistake. And it's very, very clear when you're looking at the list. If you, okay, much clearer if you're looking at the list that if you're missing something, you can see it very easily. I don't know if this is a plus or a minus, but within the transform element here, you see the API names of the fields, while over here you see the labels of the fields. I don't know, it's maybe a question of preference and of course of following some conventions within the org. So these might be some additional things. What else is interesting here? When you're using formulas, and you reference other sources from the flow, so other source data that you might already have. For example, in my case, I have here the order ID, which as you can see here, it goes down. It automatically adds this into the source data on the left-hand side. So if you have some complex formula that is using data from other resources, other variables, other, I don't know, other constants, formulas, whatever, they will show up over here at the left-hand side as sources. But you have to have in mind that the outcome is always one element, one target data. Okay, so you cannot do the one and the same transform to result in two different, for example, two different collections or a collection plus a number or whatever. You need to do separate transform elements one after another. Any questions on this? If you guys want, we can probably see it in the, I don't know, Levent, how are we with the time? Do we have time for the third scenario?
Yeah, it's about time we can wrap up and maybe have some questions.
Okay, so I'll skip the third scenario, but if anybody is interested, I'm happy to share it with you because it's much, much more complex. It's about the inner join functionality, which was introduced within the, not previous, the release before that. So I played with it a lot and I had a lot of frustrations there. So we won't have that much time to go through it because it's a complex scenario. But if you are interested, feel free to come over and talk about it. Okay, so I'm skipping this part so we can wrap up. So tips from my side, play with it. Don't rely on what you have read, because when I started preparing this for an internal knowledge exchange, I was like, wow, we can solve this and this and this and this based on what I've read. But you must get your hands dirty because there are hidden gems. Let's put it like this. So, of course, Trailhead has rather recently introduced a hands-on module, which is specifically for the transform element. So look it up and play with it. Use your hands-on orgs, or if you have the ability to do it in your business orgs, even better, and try to solve things there. But my advice, at least my learning from preparing for this knowledge exchange internally a few months back, was that, okay, I should not commit that I will deliver something with transform element because there are still things to get improved there. Other thing is be careful with formulas within the transformations, because on several occasions I was able to break it, but it breaks silently. So for some reason, the validation when you're saving the flow passes. And then once you run the flow, there are some issues there. And you cannot even enter into editing this formula and need to create the transform element from scratch, which was very, very annoying. But yeah, so be very careful with the formulas. I can show you more if anybody is interested. So what did I like? In my opinion, first of all, it's much more efficient for larger sets of data. This is obvious of the way that it works. The visual representation of the mapping, in my opinion, is a huge benefit. Of course, with having this in mind that if it is a lot of fields, it might become overwhelming. And as I already said, lower chance of missing a field to map. And the formulas could be incorporated within the transform. So I think that we've all been in the situation where we are looking at the flow that somebody else built or we built some time ago and we don't remember exactly. And you know, when you are looking at assignments and you see that something is assigning through a formula, and then you have to go to the left side, find the formula, check what it does exactly. And this is very, very annoying from time to time. So I find this option to incorporate formulas within the transform element very useful and very convenient. What I did not like that much was that the transform element is still a little bit buggy. So from time to time, the builder crashes, or I'm getting some error that does not allow me to even modify. As I said, for the formula, it was not allowing me even to modify the formula, and I had to create the element once again, do the mapping once again, etc., etc. As I said, with too many fields mapped, it might become a little bit too overwhelming. But I think that the visual representation is a little bit higher ranked, at least in my view. Also, you cannot pick an existing variable to store the result from the transformation. So this is something that I did not like at all. So the transform element always creates this brand new variable, which you have zero control on, for example, the case with the precision of the number variable and currency variable. That was annoying. Yeah, and as I said, I managed to make it to pass the saving of the flow, and after that to come up with some error that you cannot actually overcome, and you need to build it again. So these are dislikes, but I'm pretty sure that they will be fixing this pretty soon. So now it's time for your questions, if there are any. Let's see if somebody was, no questions at all. Everything was so clear. Okay, is anybody brave enough to raise a hand? Okay, we have one.
It's a general question. Do you think it's good enough? It's going to stay? Will people adopt it?
Yes, I think that it will stay because of performance, mainly because of performance issues, because loops are not that well performing. And I'm pretty sure that they will be bringing new features, like, for example, they brought this inner join functionality recently, and we are expecting that they will also bring more possibilities for the joins, because right now you have the configuration of left and right part, but it's inner join, which doesn't make sense, left and right. So I'm expecting that they will have left and right inner joins, and I'm expecting that they will improve. This is rather new element, so I'm expecting that there will be a lot of improvements here in the following releases. We'll see. Okay, another question. Awesome.
When you were, let's say, hypothetical scenario, if you were deploying a change of flow.
Check 1, 2.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a scenario where you're changing the flow and you make a change that is not caught by the save check. and then you deploy that via your standard CI/CD process. Is that getting caught anywhere, or is it letting it pass?
I don't think so, because based on what I have not tested with CI/CD deployments, or even changes, to be honest. This particular scenario in which I was able to get this error, but it looked like this error appeared and was visible in the flow builder just because there was a failed flow interview. So.
And who gets the error? Don't you get the error messages?
No, I can show you how this error message looks like if you're interested, because it was the first time for me and I've done a lot of flows. Let me see where it was. Probably this one. No, maybe this one. Okay, this is the really nice error, which appears
Inside the browser.
inside
Wow.
the builder, yes, mapping your data, and you cannot remove this. And it is based on, actually, it is based on the flow introduced of the field flows, because it has this reference item. So I got it only after testing it. So significant testing is really advisable here. And the other thing was really annoying, to be honest, because this field here, which it complains that I don't have access to this field that it's trying to reference, and this is not true. I have access to it. I can access it. Every user can access it. This is how I configured it. But for some reason, it was failing. And this was really, really annoying. So as I said, I can show you this particular scenario. This is the scenario with the inner join. Yes, this is the scenario with the inner join, but it was really hideous. So testing is very crucial, at least at this point, in my opinion. But I don't believe that even deployments will fail, considering that it's not failing when you're saving the flow and activating it. Okay, any other questions?
Can you form this flow system context?
Yes, it is. See, run a system. I tried this. Yeah. First of all, it said that I don't have access. I was like, did I forget
Can
it?
you show the first one? I think it's not the usual error. It's just a message.
Yeah, this is
It's just a message. It's not an error.
this is the first time I see this. But yeah, my first guess was, okay, I forgot to give myself access to these fields, and okay, I checked the field level security. It was okay. I checked, okay, let's try. And because this flow, I did it, I believe, invoked it through a screen flow. And well, I was like, what's going on here? Let's try and debug. Same result. Let's try with run a system. Same result. So actually, I ended up, these are lookup fields, and it was having some trouble with the lookup fields, setting lookup fields with the accurate IDs. So I had to, at the end, let me see where I have it. I believe it's this one. So I had to, at the end, create new fields to put the IDs, text fields, sorry, not text, yes, text fields to put the IDs, and then use these text fields to put them in the actual lookup fields. Really annoying. So this is why I'm saying, do not commit, even if it looks like very, very simple. Okay, any other questions?
Maybe you can try adding error handling.
No, it doesn't work. Believe me, I've tried everything.
You won't have to go-
With this flow, I lost like 2 days. Okay, do we have any questions from the online audience?
No, but you can ask them. You can ask them if they want to. Sheila, do you have a question? Okay. Microphone. You can ask them. They hear you.
Okay, guys, they were not hearing me at all?
They hear you.
Okay, that would have been interesting. Okay, I hope that everybody online was hearing me. Do you guys have any questions? Anything that you want me to show or deep dive a little bit? Because the folks here in the room will have the chance to catch me in the break, but you won't, probably. You can reach me out additionally, of course. Okay. Okay, let me ask question for the folks who said that use this transform element pretty often. Have you faced any of these issues, or am I the only one? Or what is your take on based on your experience? Okay, go ahead, Mishu. Tell us.
I think it's also because the biggest advantage of this basically makes it Yeah, I think it's the biggest advantage of the transform element is that previously when you wanted to, let's say, transform data, a lot of records, you had to go through loops, and many times we even had to write Apex code just so that we don't hit any limitations. And with the transform element, we don't need to do that anymore. I've been in projects where if it wasn't the transform element, we would have had to spend a lot of hours just to create and write Apex instead of just using this. For the error that you showed, never happened to me. I'm happy that it didn't happen to me. So, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Anybody else want to share their experience with the flow of the transform element? Because I believe that we have, I don't know, 2 people saying that they are using it regularly. 2 people saying they're using it regularly. Maybe it was somebody online. I don't know. Okay. Okay, guys. So in this case, thank you very much. Here's a quick survey. I hope that it was helpful for you all. On your Métis, you can tell me if that was useful for you. I hope it was. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Well, maybe next time we should think after this what else we can learn about flow. What is it?
I'm always up for it.
Exactly. Okay, so next, before we go to Sheila, our next presenter on Agentforce, only 20 people have written their names. Who didn't get a number? Or just tell me your name and I'll put you here. Here we go. So you are number 24. This is for free ticket for September. Is there any manager who was invited by their people for a VIP ticket? No managers, no VIP tickets. Okay. Do you have 25?
I'm joking.
Well, let's see. We have five more months to go. So we have number 25. Maybe a few more people didn't get a number. Just so that, okay, Sheila, you're getting ready? I'll put you online so that you're already available for everyone.
Am I audible?
We don't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello?
We don't hear you.
Okay, try.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Please try your
Can you?
settings to pick up your audio device.
Yeah, I have. Mm.
Okay, I know what.
Able to hear me now?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold on. I think people hear you online, but not in the room. Just a second.
Okay.
When it looks like people who are online here,
Yes. That's what I'm going to check. Who is the NN? Do you know? Could you speak?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Hello?
We hear you, but we have an echo. Just a second.
Yeah.
Try now.
Is it better?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So hi everyone. Very glad to be here. I hope you can hear me nicely now. Yeah. So thank you for having me. My name is Sheila. I live in London. And today I'm gonna talk about Agentic AI for business transformation and for enhanced user adoption. Now, before we get into what I'll cover, I just want to briefly talk about why I decided to center this presentation around using Agentforce to unlock value. We all know that today, more than ever, there's kind of like a big push for software companies to come up with the newest, the most advanced technology features, and AI is definitely the most talked about. And there is a lot that AI can do, and some of the things that they can do, they are really fun and they can be really interesting. And I'll show you a few of these in just a moment. However, user adoption when it comes to AI is quite low still. And of course, there is a multitude of factors that contributes to this low user adoption, most of which are rooted in user resistance, as for example, a fear of job displacements and lack of understanding of the collaborative nature of AI. Of course, we don't have the time to look into all of these tonight, but the main focus that I want to keep for this journey tonight is to look into how we can ensure that Agentforce is resolving real life problems and adding value and not just being the new shiny toy. So, all right, this is what we're going to cover. I'll first dive into understanding what an agentic AI actually is and how it stacks up against a more traditional AI, and obviously what it can do. After that, we'll look at how to identify the real world business problems that Agentforce is suited to solve. We'll also talk about Agentforce as a solution to those problems. And I'll wrap up by checking out one use case that I developed with my team as part of an hackathon for a fictional company called Generic Bank. But first, I'll just take a few moments to introduce myself. So, hi, my name is Sheila. In my professional life, I am a 6-time certified Salesforce consultant. I work for Publicis Sapient from London. I have 4 years of experience in guiding customers' needs throughout the entire project lifecycle. My expertise covers both from logistics and financial sectors, and it provided me with quite a valuable perspective on how technology can significantly enhance business operation. When I'm not working, I enjoy immersing myself in fantasy worlds. I am a fan of Harry Potter. I love the thrill of theme parks, and me and my partner, we love to travel, and our next destination is going to be Japan. Now, as I mentioned before, we're going to have just a brief look on the fun things that AI can do. As you can see on the screen, there is 4 different versions of my profile picture. I am pretty sure some of you have already used some of these features. This is one of the cool and fun things that generative AI is able to do. I used a very simple prompt in instruction in ChatGPT to create this 4 different version of the same profile picture. However, there is a question that I like to ask, and is, did this feature actually add any value to my needs? So, am I going to use this feature regularly? Was it actually needed? So, just something to keep in mind. Let's dive in. So, I mentioned ChatGPT. However, ChatGPT is a conversational AI, is not an agentic AI because of a few key differences. Agentforce is obviously an agentic AI, but what is an agentic AI and how is it different from any other generative AI that we're already familiar with? So I think the first qualification should be that agentic AI is still a generative AI at the core. It just has a little of an extra kick. The way that I like to think about generative AI is as a really, really good and advanced recommendation system. It's smart, it can analyze a ton of data, and it can give you an output, like, for example, suggesting an itinerary for your next trip based on very specific preferences. However, if you think about it, it is still quite reactive, right? It needs a user to give it a starting point, a prompt, and then it goes and does its thing. Agentic AI, like Agentforce, goes further. It's autonomous. Instead of just reacting, it will set its own goal and it will figure out how to achieve them. It acts independently, and that's the key part of agentic AI, this ability to act independently. It's also about proactive decision making. Agentforce, as an agentic AI, can analyze a situation. It will anticipate outcomes and make choices to get ahead, not just respond. Adaptability is key. Agentic AI is flexible. it can learn from new information and adjust the approach. Unlike traditional AI, it can evolve. Finally, there is the interaction part. Agentic AI interacts dynamically with the world and other systems, and obviously with us, almost like a human person. It collaborates, it adapts, and makes decisions with minimal oversight. So we covered what agentic AI is, but what can we actually use it for? Well, the answer is there is a lot of different industries that agentic AI and Agentforce can actually be used for. Like customer service is the most obvious answer. Agentforce can create virtual assistants that truly understand needs and proactively solve problems. Moving beyond what all the chatbots were able to do. Supply chain management, Agentforce could coordinate an entire flow of goods, optimizing routes and predicting delays for a super efficient management. In data analysis and cybersecurity, Agentforce can sift through data for key insights and instantly detect and respond to threats, like an extremely smart analyst. These are just a few examples what an agentic AI can do. There are so many sectors that it could revolutionize, from healthcare to finance and manufacturing. It's definitely a game changer at this point. So now that we looked at the possible uses for Agentforce, there is a crucial question that is often asked. Is it worth it? And the reality is that due to the time and the cost related to implementation, it is difficult sometimes to see the real value for companies to adopt agentic AI. The current business climate can feel a bit like a roller coaster. It's faster than ever, it's really intense, and the level of complexity is at its highest. We need to deal with a data overload. We're literally drowning in information, struggling to make sense of it all. And the rapid market shifts have generated an environment where trends change instantly, competitors appear suddenly, and customers have become more unpredictable, which makes businesses and creates a need for businesses to be more agile. There is also a component of personalization. Customers expect extremely tailored experiences to their needs, and this is obviously extremely complex when we're talking about dealing with millions of customers at the same time. So you might think we already have some automation tool, and true, that's really true for tasks and simple problem. But when is that not enough, and how do we identify when do we need an agentic AI to solve the problem? A good rule that I use is to ask myself, can this problem be solved efficiently and cost effectively without an agentic AI, so without Agentforce? If the answer is yes, that traditional automation tools will be sufficient to solve the problem. But if I'm dealing with the complexity that we just mentioned, like the massive amount of data and the need for fast and adaptive solution, then Agentforce might be the only way to go. Ultimately, it is about understanding the limitations of these traditional automations and recognizing when a more intelligent and autonomous approach is required to truly tackle the challenge and resolve a complex business problem. So let's take a look quickly at a few real problems that Agentforce could solve. First, there is inefficient processes. Agentforce reimagines workflows, eliminates bottlenecks and errors with smart and dynamic decisions, unlike the rigid and traditional automation. Next, there is the lack of real-time insight. Agentforce can as we said, analyze a ton of data right now and provide proactive alerts for faster and better decisions, decisions that humans can act upon in the now, and instead of responding to outdated reports. Finally, there is the personalization need that we talked, this personalizing customer interaction. Agentforce can understand the individual preferences and deliver the tailored experience at a larger scale that otherwise would not be possible with just normal automations. So the final conclusion is that Agentforce can provide this intelligent and adaptive solution to problems that are otherwise too complex. It will enable a more proactive and personalized as well as dynamic optimization. Now let's get a little bit more practical and have a look at the use case. This is the case of Generic Bank. Generic Bank is a fictional financial institution. Now, as a note, despite the company being a fictional entity, the inspiration for the use case was actually from a real-life experience of one of my team members. So let's have a look at the case. So here we have an example of an application process of our customer, we call her Sarah, applying for a credit card. The customer has the potential to be successful, but for some reason, some documents are missing and she's unable to complete this document verification process despite having attempted to call the customer service multiple times. After 4 months of unsuccessful attempts, her application is cancelled. Now, for a bit of context, the financial institutions like banks, insurances, and credit companies go through a process that they call KYC when considering a potential new customer or an application. This stands for Know Your Customer, and this usually involves verifying the customer personal data like their name, their addresses in public records, and gaining an overview of the financial history in order to assess risk. Typically, about 20% of the new applications are referred to extra documents verification and will go through a similar experience as for our Sarah in this use case. So, as I mentioned, we can see that Sarah attempted multiple calls to the customer service center to get clarification on what is needed and sent the required documents via post multiple times. However, something is still missing due to the time gaps, the documents that's required between sending the documents via post and getting a reply that apparently never came back. This 90-day limits is eventually hit and the application is eventually cancelled. So Agentforce could massively reduce the application processing time by guiding Sarah through the verification process and eliminating the uncertainty and all those manual steps that would usually require Sarah to call the customer service center and verify her information or get an update. What the Agentic AI can do is to clarify her doubts, answering specific questions about, like, for example, the type of documents or what the status of her case, and then maybe direct Sarah to upload the documents. And all of this could be done in just one single transaction. Interaction, one single interaction. So the way that me and my team went about to address the issue is by focusing on 3 critical parts of implementing Agentforce. The first was to define clearly what problem we wanted the agent to solve, defining exactly the criticality of the challenge that Generic Bank was facing in order to ensure that the agent would actually address that problem. and exactly what action we wanted the agent to be able to do. Next, we evaluated which technology to use. In this case, for example, we decided to use WhatsApp as the channel of engagement with the agent, but this could have also been a web chat, for example. And since our journey required the integration with external data sources for the agent to be able to see the customer's documents, for example, we chose to use Data Cloud as well. The last step we took was to start designing the agent and the pathways that of the various conversation. This is to help us understand the various touch points in the conversation with the agent and, as I mentioned before, the actions that we want the agent to be able to do for our customer. A note here is that when designing pathways, you could probably expect to have numerous pathways coming out of the design. However, because this case was built as part of an hackathon and there is a component of a strict time constraint, we only designed and built one of the pathways, and this is the one that we're going to look into next. So this is the pathway that we designed for our agent, and it's specifically designed for verifying the status of the application. And in this next slide, you can see the same pathway, but I highlighted the parts that we were actually able to build. Now, the purpose of the hackathon was to actually demonstrate what is possible. So just be able to demonstrate that something is possible, not necessarily build in the entirety of it. So it's more of a proof of concept. Okay, so let's have an actual look at the demo of the agent. So in a second, the video should start. Here we go. So here Sarah is talking to Mona, asking information about her application. As mentioned, she received a request for more documents from a generic bank, but she's still confused about what's required and what status the application is currently in, so she decides to start the conversation. The first thing that Mona is going to do is to verify her identity, and this is in order to make sure that she's talking to the right person, but also to retrieve the correct information. So we can see Mona provides Sarah with detailed information about the status of her application and what went wrong with the customer verification process. She also offers Sarah the option to upload a new document in order to progress her application by clicking the link provided that will redirect Sarah to an external upload page that will process the required documents. At this point, she could also ask a more specific question, like, for example, what document type she could send or how old they can be. However, since she already has the document, she's ready. Mona know that she did so. So Mona comes back straight away with a confirmation that the upload was successful and shows Sarah the confirmation and the outcome of the verification. So at this point, the interaction for this use case is completed. And there is nothing else for Mona to do but to ask Sarah if there is anything else that she can help her with. Okay. So let's have a look at the actual solution. So the first thing that we're going to look is at the actual agent. So this is the agent setup for Mona. We created Mona as a support to support customers during the application process. We defined the tone and the purpose for the agent in the role and company fields in the settings of the agent. We decided to create a topic for application management a custom topic for application management that will deal with everything related to the application. In the connection tab, we also enabled Mona to connect with the customer using WhatsApp as a channel. Now, next, this is the prompt, one of the prompts that we develop for Mona the agent. As in the conversation that we just saw between Sarah and Mona, we see the customer asking for an update on the status of the application. In the instruction that we set some steps that we expect to be completed in a certain order. For example, the first step that we expect to be completed is the customer validation, identity validation, and then as a follow-up, it will then retrieve the application information. We use a flow to validate the customer identity and to then do the application retrieval using the inputs that are provided. In this template, what happens is that we pass the information about the application, which is stored within Salesforce, as well as the submitted documentation and the related outcome, which instead are stored in Data Cloud. Because they mentioned and they want an update, we then use the prompt template shown here to generate a user-friendly response with somewhat of like a standardized answer. Now, the answer is somewhat standardized, but is not going to be always the same. What the template ensures is that the minimum information is always included. Like, for example, because the request is to make sure to get a review of the application, the status of the application should always be included. So although the prompt template is able to use data from Data Cloud in the workflow, there is still some data manipulation needed in this case when we retrieve the document outcome specifically. Therefore, we need the agent to be able to filter that specific reason for the document failure. Therefore, what we did is to instruct it to use a flow to collate the data from Data Cloud, which is then presented in the answer that it's given back to the customer. Now, the autonomous action that the agent takes in this use case refers specifically to the actions in what action it needs to be taken based on the request that the customer made and the instruction that are provided to the agent in the topic added in the topic that it's added into the available topic for the agent. For example, because the customer asked about the application, the agent decided to follow the application management topic instruction, which included the summary of application prompt. Because Mona is an agentic AI, she's able to retain this information that she gained from this first part of the interaction where she verifies the customer and retrieves the first set of information about the application. So, and continues to use this information as a context for any further requests. So if another question is asked, such as, for example, based on this use case, I've uploaded now the new document, Mona will be able to make the decision to update the information on the application and provide the customer with a new response referencing the same application that she already learned belongs to this customer. And then the new data for the new application is retrieved and presented again to the customer. Okay, this is all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed the subject and enjoyed the presentation, and I open the floor for any questions. I'm not able to hear anyone. Oh, that's a good question. Yes, this was developed as part of a hackathon. So we did it actually in 5 days. But again, it was a very, very strict time constraint. And as I mentioned, we did not go into deep on the additional requests and additional pathways that the agent could have covered.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great, Sheila. Thank you very much for the presentation. And now me and Natalia will take a photo with you, so stay there for a while.
Okay.
Hey, Sheila.
Hi.
Go for it. So just to say hello.
Everyone.
Thank you so much, Sheila.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was beautiful. Thanks.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. I think enough with the sound system.